Hello guys, welcome back to another brand new video. In today's video, I'll be talking about IELTS writing task 1. In this video, I'll be sharing my tips and strategy on how to write a band 8 standard IELTS essay. So this is my second video on IELTS writing task 1. If you want to check out my previous video, I'll leave the link in the description. So let's move now, let's start the video. Today's topic is line graph. So the first thing I would like to talk about is to introduce you with the IELTS writing task 1 properties and I would like to give you some basic information about IELTS writing task 1. In IELTS writing task 1, you have to write at least minimum of 150 words and within 20 minutes. You have to write 150 words within 20 minutes. This IELTS writing task 1 essay will be categorized and marked in 4 criteria, according to 4 criteria. The first one is grammatical range and accuracy, vocabulary range and accuracy, coherence, cohesion, and task achievement. All of this comprises of 25%. So let's move on. Now, what is line graph? Line graph, also known as line chart. It is a chart that is used to visualize the value of something over time. It looks like somewhat like this. Then the next thing is the structure of a IELTS writing task 1 essay. How the structure should be for academic writing. It should comprises of first one introduction, then an overview. Overview is a compulsory subject. You have to mention an overview in all of your essay. Then details of significant feature 1. That means body paragraph 1 and the body paragraph 2. Altogether, IELTS writing task 1 comprises of 4 paragraphs. The first one is introduction, then the overview, then body paragraph first, then body paragraph second. This four paragraph you have to write in IELTS writing. Okay, now let me discuss what should be in the introduction. Introduction should be the paraphrasing of your question itself. Introduction should be at least of 2 sentences. The first sentence should be the paraphrasing of your question and the second one should be an idea. Then the second paragraph, that is an overview, you have to mention the main feature in the first sentence. Then in the second sentence, mention the second feature, and in the third sentence, make a general comparison of, if appropriate. Make general comparison if appropriate. So these are the 3 sentences that should be in your overview. Then in body paragraph 1, this is your body paragraph 1. In body paragraph 1, first sentence should be supporting details, second should be supporting details, third should be comparison details if appropriate. Means I will show you all this when we practice one together. Then tips. There are a few tips that is very helpful for IELTS writing task 1. The first one is read the instruction carefully. Read the graph. Read the graph carefully. See what are the important features. Underline the features. Find out the most common mistake. Find out your most common mistake. See where you usually make mistake. This can be done when you practice a lot. Try practicing and make your timing accurate. Don't write it more. Try to finish your IELTS writing within 20 minutes and try and find out your mistake. Paraphrase the question. This is a very important one. You have to paraphrase this. You have to paraphrase your question in the first sentence of your introduction. So learn to paraphrase the question. Learn to paraphrase words, sentences. Use signposting languages. Practice on IELTS answer sheet. Yeah, IELTS has a different answer paper margin, and also the size of the paper is different. So try to practice your essay on those type of paper that you can download in from the Google. So try to practice your IELTS writing in that paper answer sheet. Understand how to describe the change. You can learn this when I practice. I will show you. You can just learn from there. Do not use the same word for numbers and percentage. Try to use different words for represent numbers and percentage. I have done a bit of I have given some example on my previous video, so if you want to check that video, I'll leave the link in the description. That video will be a great help for you if you're trying to learn about IELTS writing task 1. In that video I have shared how to write a bar graph, and in this video I'm sharing how to write a line graph. So after watching this video, move on to that video. I'll leave the link in the description. Spend time to organize and plan your answer. First, don't be in a rush to just go and write the answer. First, plan your answer, how you want to write the answer. Same for this strategy is same for, you can use this strategy for your task 2 as well. So try to organize your plan, try to make a plan. So how you want to proceed, how you want to move on to your, how you want to develop the story in your writing. So try to organize a plan. Do not give your opinion. Yeah, in your task 1, never do this mistake. Don't give your opinion. They never ask for your opinion. So try to stick to the point that are mentioned in your graph. So don't give your opinion from your side. The next one is practice writing overviews. Overviews is a very important factor in your IELTS writing. If you don't write overview, your marks will be deducted, because in task achievement they always look for an overview. So if you don't write an overview, you lose a band score maybe. Do not use notes or bullet points. Don't try to give your answer in bullet points, and don't use short forms or abbreviation. Consider the tense which you are going to use. Don't mix up your words with present tense and future tense or past tense. Try to stick to the tense you are trying to mention. Do not write every number of processes you come across. Means in a graph there will be so many things mentioned in the graph, like numbers, years, and many drawbacks, many fall and grow. You don't have to mention each and every point in the graph. Mention only those points that has some importance and that has some meaning to the graph. You don't have to use all the points that you see in the graph. Try to use the special and important one. Do not copy the words or information given in the diagram. Don't try to copy the information given in the diagram, because you have to paraphrase. If you write the same thing, your marks will be deducted. And try to learn how to paraphrase the sentence. So the next one is support your description with accurate data. The data that are provided in the map, use those data. Don't try to give your own data or own opinion and all those. Try to use the information that is provided to you in the map. Now the next one is strategy. This strategy is something that I personally followed to achieve a band score of 7.5 in my writing within a month. So you guys can follow this strategy as well. The first thing is you have to write 150 words within 20 minutes. Practice this. How many times? The more you practice, the more accurate you become in this. Sometimes it will happen like you don't even need 20 minutes to write 150 words. So you may finish in 16 or 18 minutes. So this will be a great plus point for you. So try to practice this beforehand, at least before 2-3 weeks before the exam. Practice every time in a day. At least write 2-3 essays and see that you develop day by day. Write a clear introduction. Yeah, introduction has to be a clear one. Introduce the details in x-axis and y-axis, because graphs are usually in x-axis and y-axis, means horizontally or vertically. So try to mention what is given vertically, what are the information that's provided to you in vertical lines, what are the information that are provided to you in the horizontal lines. Especially the lines information that you have to write is, see, there it may be the number of years here, and it may be like percentage here. So you can write like in the x-axis they are shown in the graph. In the x-axis they are shown the number of years from 2009 to 2012. Like suppose it is 2009 and the graph says 2012. So mention that in the x-axis the x-axis in the map it is shown from year 2009 to 2012, and from percentage is usually from 0% to 100%. So you can write it like that. Create an overview statement with all main trends. Yeah, in the overview you should mention the trends, only the trend. The overview shouldn't be more than 3 sentences. Try to keep it within 3 sentences. The first thing you should mention is key point. Overview should be something that you are about to discuss in the further paragraphs. Something that you're going to discuss in the further paragraphs, that what you're going to discuss in the further paragraph, the summary of that should be in the overview in 1 sentence. And you should mention all the main increase and decrease. If you see a sudden increase and then a sudden decrease, then mention the increase and the decrease. Then don't mention in between you saw a small increase and again increase and decrease. Don't mention all those are not important. Important are those that has increased gradually, constantly, rapidly. Those things are much more important. Then the fourth one is remember to use a range of vocabulary without any spelling mistake. Please don't do any spelling mistake. Spelling mistake will be, I think for IELTS the examiner will feel funny if you do a spelling mistake, and if it is an obvious spelling mistake then it will be a very bad for you, and try to avoid spelling mistake. However, IELTS line graph vocabulary plays a key role in cracking this section. For any sort of graph, especially for graph writing, there are few keywords and for few vocabulary that should be used. I will discuss this within few minutes, so stick to the video. The right IELTS line graph vocabulary includes some verbs and nouns, wide range of adverb and adjectives, varying time phases, and IELTS vocabulary word list. I'll mention all this in the now. See, if the line graph is upwards, then you can mention that grow, leap, rise, and peak. These are the words that you can mention. I'll say the meaning of leap. Leap means to jump. Leap means to jump. Then if it is a downward line, then decline, fall, back down, descend. So if it's an adjective, drastic, dramatic, tremendous, rapid. Then adverbs, drastically, dramatically, tremendously, rapidly. Steady, adjective, steady, constant, uniform, moderate. If the graph is steady or there is a certain movement, then you can mention all these points like steady, constant, uniform, moderate. So the next thing is, this is an example that I will discuss now. What does the question say? The graph below shows the amount of goods transported in UK from 1974 to 2002. So this is the amount of goods, means in tons, and these are the years from 2074 to 2002. And you can see that there is a box here mentioning, if dotted line, this line means road, like these lines, and water means, dotted line means water, like this. Then rail line means, these are the rail line, and the last pipeline is, bold line means pipeline. Yeah. Then now what are the things that you can see from the graph? See, in the graph you can see that the use of waterways was below 40 million tons in 2074 and rose up to above like 65 rose up to 65 million tons in 2002. That's a rapid growth, you can say. So this is the point that you should mention in your essay. Now let's see what I wrote in the essay. The first introduction is, the graph illustrates the transportation of road, water, railway, and pipeline in the UK from 1974 to 2002. Units are all measured in millions of tons. See, in the first introduction what I wrote about x-axis and y-axis. In x-axis we see there is years, and y-axis we see millions of tons. And what is happening in the question? Just paraphrase the question. The amount of goods, and we wrote here transportation of roads, railway, water, and in UK. So we just paraphrase the question. Then the overview. In the overview you can write overall. While roads are always the most transported of all goods, pipeline are always the least transported. See, seeing the graph, we can say that roads are the most used. See, among all the four transportation mode of transportation, road is the most highly used and pipeline is the least used mode of transportation. So I mentioned those. Both water and rails have nearly the same amount of transportation for over 4 years, until the first one continued growing while the second one decreased. First one continued growing means, I mentioned first one means water, and the second one means the rails decreased. You can see the graph. The first one means they both started at the same pace, but fortunately water rose up and railway decreased. So this is the point that I mentioned in overview. Now what I mentioned in the overview, I will discuss the same thing in the body paragraphs. See, the first body paragraph I talked about road transportation was almost constantly increasing for overall period. After 1990, it had a sudden decrease until it recovered and continued rising. See, in 1990 it decreased. See, you can see the graph. In 1990, see here, the use of roads decreased by a little, but again continued to grow. So I mentioned that as well, and had a sudden decrease until it recovered and continued rising, reaching a peak of almost 100 million tons in 2002. The final growth is 100 million tons, almost 100 million tons in 2002. So just mention all those. And then pipeline, in the first sentence I mentioned about goods in pipeline and about roads. So in my first paragraph I talked about roads and pipeline. It can be seen that pipeline transportation had slightly increased around the years. It more than doubled in transportation over 1 million tons to over 20 million. First it was at 1 million tons and then finally it rose to 20 million tons. So this is the increase that I mentioned. You don't have to mention each and every point. See, like, don't mention that in 2008 it was at almost 1.5 million tons and then it rose to almost near to 16 to 15 tons. Don't mention every year. Don't have to mention every year. Try to mention only the main points. So in pipeline there is no main point at all. So just mention the initial point and the final point. Got that? So in the fourth paragraph I mentioned, even though railway transportation decreased during the long period, as it presented a sudden increase by 2002, it reached almost the same amount of transportation that had in the beginning, over 40 million tons. See, in the beginning, railways were at 40 million, isn't it? In 1974, then it increased and then decreased. So railways were at 40 million tons in 1974, and then it decreased, and then however it increased in 2094 and went up to the mark where it was at first. So I just mentioned that it didn't make any changes. It went up and down, but initially and finally it returned to its initial point. This is the thing I mentioned. Then the next one is water transported remained constantly for many years until it climbed gradually by 2002, after dropping at about 50 million tons in 1998. Let's see the graph. So water means, this dotted line means water, means it started at 40 millions and then it rose up to almost 60, and then at a point it almost touched 60, and then in 1998 it fell down to 50 million, but somehow it increased, and at 2002 finally it reached a point 65. I didn't mention the 65 point. I just told that it increased by gradually in 2002. If you have learned something new from this video, then like the video and subscribe the channel to see more interesting video on Ielts. Till then, stay safe, stay healthy. Bye.